Back so soon? Gosh darn right we are. We got content to churn out, baby. And this past weekend definitely gave us that. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to your favorite NFL podcast that has been sweeping the nation, that has the most inconsistently consistent uploading and live schedule you'll ever see in the history of NFL podcasting. Probably up there. Welcome back to another edition of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. Myself introducing the affair per usual with my opening soliloquy, the Iceman, Jury, and joining me on this episode, just one of my fellow compatriots. Don't worry, the other one, he's going to be coming back soon. We'll address that here in a couple moments. But
off, shows up when he wants,
he's really using whatever privileges he apparently has, whatever few privileges we have doing the show. But joining me is our games master, Justin. Justin, how are we doing on this one?
Am I still a games master? I haven't played a game in so long.
I think to be fair, life is hectic, and if we're counting the pick challenge as part game, part chaos, which I think is kind of like the perfect mold for it, you are leading that, so I think you are still technically the games master in this thing. So
we've been here before.
We've been here many times. I know, as Justin was joking and alluding to. In that regard, our third friend here, the last third of our troublesome triumvirate, the Podfather, is not here at the moment. He will be joining us a little bit into this episode. Can confirm there will be Podfather at some point. No idea when. We'll figure that out here in a couple of moments time. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, despite the lack of Podfather to start, we still are going to get right into the thick of things in regards to this episode because, Justin, to say the very least, what an active weekend this was in terms of just newsworthy things happening and things slowly, keyword slowly, forming themselves for the playoff picture, at least just in terms of more teams being knocked out. One team in particular that, as the title alludes to, we're going to have a lot of conversation about, and they're not the only team that we're going to be having conversations about because, Justin, the injury madness in the NFL for the season as a whole. Actually, I did not realize this until earlier today at work. I was going back and forth a bit with some coworkers of mine, and actually a really good point was brought up, and I want to read this to you that I saw earlier that I need to scroll up to find because, why would things be easy? But no, I have it right here. Just notable season-ending injuries this season, right? And I don't necessarily have the entire list of names. I might be missing a name or two off this list, but I think you'll see a trend once I really get going into it, So some notable ones here. Daniel Jones tore his Achilles, right? A couple weeks ago. Najee Harris tore his Achilles way earlier on into the season. Marshawn Lattimore tore an ACL. Zach Ertz tore an ACL. Tucker Kraft was having a breakout year for the Packers, by the way. Tore an ACL. Tyreek Hill, no idea what his season was going to be like. Torn ACL. Malik Neighbors, torn ACL. Nick Bosa, torn ACL. Ladies and gentlemen, have you picked up the pattern here?
They're all NFL players.
Ding, ding, ding. You all right? You say you don't deserve to be the games master. Come on. Yeah. You crush it. And then, of course, recently, the two most recent ones, to say the least, in the injury madness, Patrick Mahomes, not Jackson. Chiefs fans probably were wishing it was Jackson. Poor kid. And Micah Parsons both go down with torn ACLs. A lot to discuss and a lot of fallout, to say the very least, in that regard. So, Justin, obviously we're going to go in depth into each one separately. We'll talk about Parsons first here in a couple of moments, and then we will talk about the Mahomes, the impact each one has on a respective player, team, etc. in a couple of moments. But just immediately, the Mahomes one is what hit first, actually. Ironically, for us, we were discussing the idea of, okay, it looks like the Chiefs season is over. Mahomes was out. In the brief moment before we learned at least the initial prognosis, we were discussing, they should probably sit him the rest of the season, right? Well, they don't need to worry about that making that decision.
Was made for him.
Because it was made for them. And then literally, an hour later, if that, or hours later, whenever it was that we get the Parsons thing. So what was your immediate reaction to just both, the Parsons one was closer to what I would call a freak injury, quote unquote. I don't know, maybe you would refer to both of them as, because Parsons, it was just one of those things. He tried to get to the quarterback, wasn't able to, and just kind of like it was an awkward land to an extent. Not that he fell down, but you know what I mean. Kind of like
he went down before he even got there.
Right.
They were both kind of, if I remember correctly, non-contact ish. I think Mahomes, might have been a little bit more physical. But yeah, look, it's funny that they were even talking on the broadcast at the time, like, hey, this game's kind of out of reach now. Maybe we take Mahomes out. And then before they even had the opportunity to finish their thought, he was down. I would have said that maybe he's probably not going to be shut down. He probably wouldn't have been shut down for the year. He's just not that guy. But I think going forward, this is his second major knee leg injury. I remember we had the dislocated kneecap a couple seasons ago. From now on, he might be if we're not doing well or if we are doing well, he's a shutdown kind of guy. The real issue is the Parsons injury, because it took a team that we all expected to be major contenders during the year, even in the beginning of the year when they first made the trade, and they proved it right for such a long time. And now, I mean, unfortunately for them, they're also in what seems to be the toughest or the second toughest division in football. They are more of a what will they do without him kind of team. I mean, the Tucker Craft injury hurt also. Christian Watson also went down, but they said it's not a major injury. They also seemingly had a setback with their young running back who hasn't really been able to see the field pretty consistently in Marshawn Lloyd. And now all of a sudden, depth is a concern, and their defense is missing their leader. And where does the 7 seed Packers go from here? You got the Lions nipping at their heels. You got the Carolina Panthers, the game below that. They are lucky enough to be beneficial record-wise with that tie that they put together with the Cowboys in the beginning of the season. But now the question is, does this team make a deep playoff run, if any sort of playoff run at all? Because it looks like if they play the Bears, who they're playing this week in the playoffs, I don't necessarily know that I want the Packers in that game. At least not if I'm a betting man. It's going to be hard to see it. This week will be very eye-opening for them, for sure. But it's a lot of question marks now all of a sudden for this Green Bay Packers team.
Yeah, question marks for a team for a season that, for its relative inconsistencies, because the Packers have had a couple issues here and there. They had some stretches where it looked a little weird. It was the early season loss to the Browns that tied to the Cowboys, where it was like, oh, maybe this defense can be scored upon a little bit. Back-to-back losses to the Panthers and the Eagles, where the offense just completely sputtering would be a kind thing to say. And then it looked like they were rebounding into form. 4 straight victories for themselves, actually. Getting much-needed wins, beating the Bears literally a little over a week ago at this point, then being the Lions on Thanksgiving. 2 critical wins in terms of their, like you mentioning the tie, but also like to keep themselves in this discussion at this point. But Parsons going down, who has been, I think for all intents and purposes, we would agree, the heart of that defense, in terms of on-the-field performance, he's putting up the numbers, but in terms of, like those things that we talk about where it doesn't always reflect in the stat sheet, Micah Parsons has lived up to the expectation of the billing so far early in the Green Bay Packers uniform. He is more than lived up to it. And if it wasn't for a generational season that Myles Garrett was putting on, Micah Parsons probably would have been more of a favorite for Defensive Player of the Year and was definitely still going to get votes. But this ultimately brings an end to that. And of course, potentially could bring an end to even more. So Justin, let's talk about the Parsons side of it first. Like you said, in terms of this is more relative long term, although like you got to believe with the modern medicine and modern science now, it'll be fine for him next season. Maybe it'll be a slow start. I don't know if he'll miss a game or two necessarily to start next year, but he'll be close to 100% to start next season, and the Packers will still be a good team. We know for sure, definitively, relatively speaking.
This is more severity of that injury, because the ACLs are known to be possibly a year long. He's probably going to miss some time next year, as will Mahomes.
Well, so for Parsons, where there's the long-term aspect, there's especially, let's look at the short-term aspect of it, because it's kind of Packer season's still going, Chiefs season's over. So short-term, how critical is this Parsons injury at this time of year for this Packers team that is trying to you were kind of alluding to it, but when you look at the fact that they've fallen now into the wild card, I believe they are the 7th seed in the wild card race. The Bears are above them now once again after the Packers lose and the Bears get a much-needed win. And the Lions are just nipping at Green Bay's heels here coming up, even though the Packers have beaten them twice this year, but the Lions could still find a way to overtake them for that last wild card spot. how devastating is this injury, and how will it impact defensively what Green Bay is going to be able to do in the last 3 weeks? And I'll just, for context, I'll give you their last 3 opponents just so you don't have to go and search for them. So they'll be facing the Bears this Saturday. Funny enough, we have Saturday games this week. A couple. They will be facing the Bears this Saturday, 8:20 p.m. Then the next week, another Saturday game, they'll be facing the Baltimore Ravens before they finish the season against the Minnesota Vikings in, as we know for years now, a TBD flex schedule. We are going to learn the Week 18 schedule at some point a day or two after Week 17. So predominantly, if you want to focus more on the Chicago and the Baltimore games, because those 2 games will have the biggest impact, arguably, of the lot. What is this, or not what, how is this Parsons injury going to impact their game plan in the next couple of games as they are trying to hold on for dear life in the postseason picture?
See, that's a tough one because they don't have such an easy schedule either. They are still a good team, even without Micah Parsons, even without Tucker Kraft, who they seem to finish every year without, unfortunately for him, and the Packers. But look, it's not an ideal situation, and they could still very easily sneak into the playoffs. That's definitely something that's possible. I mean, there are this number 7 seed already. The question is now, it's not that they will or they won't make the playoffs. I mean, again, like I said, they're lucky enough that they have that tie. So even if they lose this week to the Bears and the Lions win, they still have that 7 seed in control. They need to win 2 out of 3, so they don't need to go crazy. But it's not an easy position that they're in, unfortunately for them. So it's almost like, I mean, obviously they want to make the playoffs. It's not like it wouldn't be worth it to make the playoffs, but what does making the playoffs even do for them? I mean, the Vikings are already eliminated. They basically have to either beat the Ravens or the Bears to guarantee a spot. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I just don't necessarily know how likely it is to play these teams and not have your quarterback in the middle of your defense. And it's not like their offense has been lighting it up like we expected. They did have a very good game last week, although it was in vain against a very good Packers team. But I mean, you saw we were just complaining about Bo Nix not being consistent. He had 4 touchdowns in this game that Parsons went down. And then I know Parsons played most of the game, but they looked like a really good team. So now all of a sudden they got to face the Bears, whose defense is leading the league in takeaways. And then they got to play the Ravens, who, I mean, you don't know what Ravens team is going to show up, but it's possible that Derrick Henry goes off again, like he's been going off the last couple weeks. And there's a reason Lamar's a multi-time MVP. So it's really hard to say exactly what they'll end up doing without Parsons, but it's a bleak outlook for sure, because even if they do secure that 2 out of 3, do we really have faith that they'll make a deep playoff run in such a difficult NFC landscape?
Not really. Like losing Parsons, and this is why the question does need to be posed, kind of like, how much will this impact their odds at the postseason? Because while the tie does help them a lot right now, you also do have to kind of consider the fact that if, you mentioned that they could win 2 out of the next 3, but they could also very much lose 2 out of the next 3. And on paper is only as valuable as you might perceive it until we finally see it play out. But on paper, the Lions have a very slightly easier last 3 game stretch here. Well, maybe just in terms of the uncommon opponent they have, because they both have to deal with the Bears and the Vikings to end off their season. But if you're the Packers, to lose the quarterback of your defense, who leads you in sacks, leads you in tackles for loss, tied for the lead on the team, I think, in forced fumbles, like pressures that he causes, the impact he can make in terms of drawing the attention on him, drawing the linemen, what he can do for you so much schematically. For a Packers unit that has had some blips on the radar in regard to like having him in the lineup, Now you're not going to have him for 3 games. Micah Parsons, they walk in through that door. And question of who's going to step up in these moments, like you do still have it just in terms of your linebacking core if you need the support there. Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker have both been tackle machines this season. Relatively, the total tackle machines, both are over 100 tackles on the season. Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney have both done really solid jobs as safeties in their own respective right. Like there are still the pieces there. We're not going to say this team is not immediately going to become the worst defense in the league. That's not going to happen.
No, they were a top 10 defense without Parsons. Parsons was just that piece that put them over the top.
Exactly. So there is still the weaponry here, but is it almost a thing of now without that extra guy who can do so much for you? And particularly, I don't want to limit him because he can do so much for you defensively, but let's just focus on the pass rushing aspect of things, right? Like the gap between him and the next highest amount of pass rushing on the team, it doesn't seem like a lot. It's just a 5 sack difference between him and Rashawn Gary, which I think for all respective purposes, Rashawn Gary's put up sacks without a Micah Parsons before. We're not worried about Rashawn Gary, but can a Devontae Wyatt, can a Lucas Van Ness, can guys like that get to the quarterback with the kind of consistency we're going to expect from them here without the guy that has done so much for that pass rush? If you're going to argue one aspect of the Packers defense that Parsons has made the biggest impact for, it's not a stretch in any way to say it is the pass rushing. Will that impact them in their last games against – not will that impact them, but how much could it impact them against a team with a Caleb Williams who the Bears lost the game, but they had Caleb Williams had a decent game. It wasn't earth-shattering by any stretch, but 2 touchdowns, limited the mistakes, only the 1 interception that he ended up throwing. He played a fine enough game. It was a close game. It was a 1-score game. I think the Bears had a chance late in that game to do something. They just weren't able to finish the job at the end. And then, like you mentioned, the week after, Baltimore, who – other conference, it doesn't necessarily impact you in terms of any of the tiebreakers, but just in the base win-loss column, that's a Baltimore team that's going to be motivated. They still very much have their playoff lives that they need to fight for. If anything, depending on the impact of the Lions-Steelers game that's going to be happening this week, Baltimore could be playing for the lead of their division against you. And you would think and hope, if you're a Ravens fan, that is you'll see the peak of that team there in terms of Lamar being as good as he can be, Derrick Henry being as good as he could be. I guess the plus side you do have is that that game is going to be in Lambeau. That is your final home game of the season. So there is that little not redemption, that's too much of a word, but you get what I mean. That is one positive going your way in terms of the scenarios that could be going into that game. And then you have that flex game against Minnesota. We can only say so much about that game at the end of the day because we just don't know what the situation is going to be like. How much more will we see more good J.J. McCarthy? Will we see more bad J.J. McCarthy going into it? Probably a little bit of both. And what the situation will be on the other side, because if the Lions play a role, but if the Bears beat you, and for all intents and purposes, that is close to giving them the division. If they can sew up the division by week 18, who's to say they don't sit some guys against Detroit and screw you over? Like, there's a ton of different scenarios that can play out here. And this just ultimately leads to Green Bay's future is in their hands, and it has to start with them beating the Bears this weekend. Even if this doesn't give you the division at the end of the day, let's say they beat the Bears and they lose the last 2, like, that in and of itself could be the ultimate difference maker, this Bears game, in what your future could be to end the season. Because losing to the Bears more than anything else has a higher chance of just crushing their odds than anything. Because you lose a division game, you lose a conference game. Let's say Detroit can pick up 2 wins in a row. Again, the Bears' motivation could just be, if they wrap up the division by week 18, like if you're Green Bay, this is, I would argue, the most important of the last 3 games on your schedule. It just so happens it's also the first one without Parsons on this trip.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it's also probably the easiest game on their schedule out of the 3. And like we said, they only need 2 to really clinch because of that tie. So while I do agree with you, it's an important game, and you at least want to have a good showing. If it's not a close game, then the question becomes, are you like, maybe why don't we sit down and, let the rest of the season come to us and we'll figure it out next year when we're healthy. But you also, I mean, you're right. The question is, where's the production going to come from now? And you're going to see more guys get some more time because you're going to fill Parsons' spot with the rotation. But can some of these guys, get together and make up the production that Parsons had on the field and the impact that he had? And is it enough to put them over that final hump and clinch that playoff spot? Because, I mean, look, they're going to get help. It's just, it is what it is. It's the nature of the game, and these teams all play each other. So, in theory, I'm going to assume at least one of the teams below them loses one, maybe two of the next 3 games. But where does the production come from, and where do you find those 2 wins to clinch the playoff spot, to put yourself in a position where you say, all right, we could do this without Micah? And that's going to have to be at least shown in this next game to say, hey, look, this is our last home game of the year. This is our last game against a divisional opponent that matters and, has a chance to put us in position to win. I mean, in theory, if they win this game, they're the number 2 seed now, right?
They would have a really good shot at it. Certainly,
They're definitely They're definitely, if they win this week, they are definitely in first place in the division.
Yes, because
So,
the Bears would fall to 10-5.
It's a major difference.
They would end up being 10-4-1.
So it is a game with major repercussions.
Major repercussions. I guess the one other thing, I don't even know the toughest part. They've been doing good when they go to Soldier Field, and this game being in Soldier Field, I don't think it's really going to have as much of an impact as we think.
I thought it was at home. I thought it was in.
No, it's the Ravens game is the last game at home.
Oh, okay.
So in terms of that scenario, where a team that's also fighting, like the thing for the Packers is that they don't necessarily have more motivation, more or less than the other teams across from them, because every single team they're facing is fighting for their playoff lives.
Except for the Vikings.
Well, I'm talking about the important 2 ones. I'm almost replacing the Vikings with the Lions at that point, because, like, realistically, the real Week 18 opponent for Green Bay is going to be what Detroit does in their game.
Well, look, if you want to talk about a tough opponent, I mean, that Vikings team is finally getting some consistency at the quarterback again, and they would like nothing more than to knock the Packers out of the playoffs. So it's not like it's a gimme game either.
Yeah. Well, it will go the other way for Detroit. But if you're Detroit right now, if you're Lions fans, you are cheering for the Bears this week, and you are cheering for the Vikings in Week 18 to guarantee it for you. Which is, I mean, I feel like we see it more often than we actually think we do in terms of rooting for the other team, for other teams in your division to do a job for you. But it is just funny overall to think about how the Lions are essentially going to be cheering for the rest of the division to beat Green Bay, because that is, we're not going to detail in this episode, maybe next week or a week after, like the state of the NFC wildcard picture. It stays firmly right now in the NFC West at this moment, with Seattle being the 5th seed, with San Francisco being the 6th seed. 2 teams that are also still, like, they still have to technically clinch the postseason. They have extremely good odds to make it, but those are 2 teams that are still fighting to secure their spot at the table. Seattle in a big game that could decide the NFC West crown this season, as they face the Rams this week, and the San Francisco 49ers, not this week, but next week, I believe they face the Chicago Bears. So it's going to be interesting, a lot of interesting football play over the next couple of weeks. But for Green Bay, I mean, like you said, here's my thing, because I think about this. I feel like this is always like the kind of mindset I have, like when we talk about really good, like all pro running backs being like replaced or cut by their teams. When Aaron Donald retired, and he wasn't necessarily at his peak. He wasn't 20 sack Aaron Donald, but he was still 12, 13, making such a difference. Like, I think in terms of production, like between statistical production and impact, like I think the Packers have the talent. Like, I think guys can make up a bit for the statistical production that is going to be gone with Parsons not being there. Like, obviously not for the rest of the season. He has 12 sacks. There's no Packers defense. Myles Garrett stands. No defensive player in the NFL is going to get 12 sacks over the next 3 games, we think. So I think statistically they can make up for it. I think in terms of impact, like we said, what Parsons can do, I mean, there's a reason that the Dallas Cowboys had to make a trade at the trade deadline. Like, they understood and knew that you need that central defensive piece that could do so much for you. Quinn Williams hasn't necessarily been that. I don't blame him, because he's coming in late to a season for a team that realistically their odds were shot a long time ago. But if you're looking at it from the perspective, what Micah Parsons does for you, the impact, what he draws, the pressures created, all that good stuff, the run stopping that he can help with, like, guys will get tackles, guys will get sacks, guys will get tackles for losses, but it's that extra, like, impact play-to-play basis that doesn't show up in the stat sheet that I think is going to be the biggest thing, more than anything else that they're going to be missing with him out of the lineup. And, I think, like you said, of course, they're at this juncture in the season, you want to win all the games. There's not necessarily if you win one but lose two, it doesn't necessarily put you in a good spot. You want to win them all. But this Bears game, in terms of the permutations of what it means for Green Bay, of what it means for Chicago, of what it means for Detroit, this is arguably the game that has the most impact of the weighing of the scales going forward for those three teams in the last couple of weeks of the season. So it's going to be interesting to see how they immediately respond in this big game in enemy territory at Soldier Field in Chicago against the Bears. So that'll be one to watch, to say the very least. Of course, Micah Parsons was not the only torn ACL that occurred this weekend, as we discussed. Another one happened late in the Kansas City Chiefs game. This was fourth quarter when this injury happened. Mahomes goes down. Gardner Minshew comes in. Minshew Mania couldn't get the job done. Like you had said, Rick and I floated in the chat pre the news breaking, or at least pre the initial prognosis of, do you sit Mahomes? You're going to miss the postseason. Like you had mentioned, you did bring up, and you brought it up again now, Justin. It's like, oh, he's so much of a competitor. You'd have to really convince a guy like that to have to sit for a couple games. There was no convincing needed because of the football gods, the injury demon, made or at least the powers that are above the injury demon, made the choice themselves. Chiefs Kingdom fallen. Where do the Chiefs go from here, Justin, with the Patrick Mahomes torn ACL finishing out the season, officially missing the postseason? I sent it to you guys, but it snapped a ton of we're talking about all-time great dynasty-worthy streaks that this organization was on before the official news of them missing the postseason. I mean, you talk about being consistently good for a decade, the playoff appearances for them, the consecutive division titles for them, the consecutive Super Bowls for them. This has been the class of the AFC for so many years. They're going to be missing the postseason this year. Obviously, short term, you missed the postseason. Long term, what happens going forward? So Mahomes goes down. What do the Chiefs have to do to already look ahead to 2026?
It's a tough question because
I like asking you tough questions.
there's a lot of directions they can go, because realistically, you got to think that this team is ready to reset. I mean, not maybe full reset, but they got to fix the offense. They have to figure out real weapons for a guy like Patrick Mahomes, because clearly the weapons they have not worked out. The run game has been stagnant, and I know Pacheco's been injured, but we talked about it last week. The offensive line has been kind of all over the place. The defense isn't what it was last year. It's not terrible, but it's not what we've come to expect from this team. So where do they go from here is a good question, especially because you want to know the status of Travis Kelce, which, whether or not he's got the production that he's had in the last 10 years compared to this year, he's still a major spot that you have to defend. So it affects the way the teams play defense and frees up the rest of your guys. So you want to make sure that they have a game plan for post Travis Kelce, which honestly seems like it could be any year now. If I'm really thinking about it, I'm going to say it's probably this is the last year. I don't understand why he would continue, especially if they're going to go through a rebuild. But you never know. I mean, look, the dude still has some football left in him. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But
he is statistically playing better this year than last year. His receptions are down, but his yardage, per catch, is up. He, even I think without Mahomes, is going to finish with more receiving yards this year than he did last year. He's caught a couple more touchdowns. He's had moments, flashes, not consistently throughout the season, but he had a few more moments this year where he looked like Travis Kelce of old compared to last year where he was just old Travis Kelce. So that's one thing. But no, like you said, and we had brought it up earlier in the season in an edition of All Gas, No Breaks. I think I was the one who initially brought it up, and I don't know if we brought it back or maybe just broached the subject again a week or two later of his future. And my prediction was, no matter what, this was going to be the last year of his career. That it just he's lost that slight step for himself that, at the peak of his powers gave him 1,100, 1,200, 1,300 yard seasons with double-digit touchdowns and these game-breaking things he could do. This is one of not just the regular season, not just his tight ends. This is one of the greatest receiving threats in the history of postseason NFL. This is the guy. And you lose that half step, full step. That makes a difference between you having 9 catches for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, or 5 catches for 55 yards and maybe a score if you're lucky. Like it really does make a difference for a guy like that. And speaking of making a difference, the conversation is going to get a lot more fun, because how poetic the timing that this gentleman decided to come in now. But Justin, he's here. Our guy, the Podfather, is here for this episode. Podfather, you come in at the perfect time. It's almost like you planned this. It's almost like you were listening and waiting for us to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs here. So how are we doing right now? And what are your immediate thoughts about where the Chiefs go from the Patrick Mahomes?
Is he asleep? Is that
he might be
going right now? Sleep?
He might be.
Why is there a reindeer over my head? On my forehead? What in God's name did I miss in the weeks that I haven't been here? I'm also picking up sleeveless tees now. Apparently, I'm the swole Podfather. Apparently, is how we're doing these now. God, that reindeer's right in my line of sight.
I'll talk to our graphics people. I'll get the reindeer removed here for you, buddy. No, it is hilarious.
It is, right? It's basically doing an Irish jig on my forehead, my very large eminent proboscis, if you will. Yeah, the Chiefs, even better. The Chiefs are dead, man. Ding dong indeed. Look, I'll be honest with you. I think we knew this was going to come eventually. It just what was it? Was it last year that they had all those fluky victories potentially that we kind of expected? A little bit of a drop off there, but now it just confirmed what we knew, was that the Chiefs dynasty, their window has officially closed on them. You hate to see a guy in Mahomes go down the way that he did with the injury. Obviously, you hate to see it, but if you look top down as to how this team's performed this season, everybody's having a down year. I can't think of one guy that I would say maybe impressing me the most. I mean, certainly ain't Chris Jones, because the way that he didn't realize in the post-game press conference that they were out of the playoffs until, he was told they were out of the playoffs, leaves a lot to be desired there. Butker's had a terrible year. Pacheco hasn't been in the same way. Their wide receiving core hasn't been good. Kelsey's been really off this year. And, it just goes to show you that, the teams that are ahead of them figured it out. They got younger, they got faster, they got better, whereas the Chiefs maintain that status quo. And, where do they go from here? Well, I don't know. I mean, I think the real question is, who do they lose from this team this season? And, where do you look to attack, in the draft and the free agency? I'll be honest with you. I think Kansas City needs to reload in a lot of places, but I look at that running back room with Pacheco and Hunt, and I'm saying to myself, I need a number one in there now. I mean, look at the resurgence that guys have had, going to different teams this year. DeAndre Swift with the Bears had a massive bump in his stats this year. Even though Barkley's trended down, he's been pretty good. There were guys all throughout. I mean, the Browns have rotations of running backs, but you can't tell me that if Cleveland were to give Jerome Ford, that he might take a flyer, be good with Kansas City potentially. I think that's really one of those big keys that they need to diversify that offense better. If this can start with that, maybe they draft a tight end. Maybe they find the Tyler Warren or the Colson Loveland of this year's draft and go over there. The defensive front looks okay. Injuries beset, Trent McDuffie and those guys in the secondary, but yeah, and the Broncos and the Chargers just blew right past them, and there was nothing they could do about it. I mean, even when you lose the Texans, it's a pretty fair shot that you're not going to be doing anything in the season. So it's fallen, and we have a new suitor in the AFC to usurp the crown, which is kind of refreshing going into the season, I must say.
Yeah, it's going there is a fair shot that out of the AFC you have a guy who not even fair shot. There's current playoff teams. I think, if I'm not wrong, 6 of the 7 current AFC playoff teams, their starting quarterback has never made a Super Bowl.
Knicks, Herbert,
Drake May,
Allen, May, Stroud, yeah.
Rodgers is the only one in the AFC.
And then there's a looming threat of Phillip Rivers.
I know.
Hey, he's inevitable.
Hey man, to be fair to him, he had to get the 5 years of insurance back. The insurance in this country is crazy. I don't blame that man for coming back.
Catholics.
But no. So going into the discussion, so there's two ways to look at this. There's what's going to happen with Mahomes and what's going to what the Chiefs need to do around him.
Yeah,
I think with Mahomes, Justin did bring it up earlier that torn ACLs, they are still tough. It's not necessarily cut and dry. I'm leaning on the fact that with modern medicine, the torn ACL now in sports is a lot easier is not the word, but guys can come back and still play at a good level.
Quicker than it used to be.
Yeah, quicker than it used to be. And I think
definitely.
because Mahomes is not, I mean, he didn't suffer this injury in his career, but just work with me here. He's not a Michael Vick. He's not a Cam Newton. He's not a Lamar. He still uses mobility to his advantage. He can still, he scampered for the 7, 8, 9-yard gains. But we know that that can be an addition to him. And he necessarily, he's not going to become a statue to end his career. He could probably still move around a little. We know his arm is his biggest thing. As long as he ain't getting shoulder reconstruction surgery at some point, that's probably what matters the most when it comes to his throwing ability. I think Mahomes, maybe it'll be a slow start to next year. I'm not worried about him coming back and becoming an MVP again. If anything, if this was a down year and 2026 might be another quote-unquote down year, 2027 to 2029, he's about to just throw for 5,000 yards in each of those seasons, it feels like. But in order to do that, he's going to need the weapons around him again. If you're the Chiefs, like you guys said, there are a lot of important questions that need to be answered because honestly, we saw what happened this year when Mahomes wasn't enough to just answer to hide all the flaws. I think if there's one thing that 2025 exposed about Kansas City is that if Mahomes can't play like a god every single week, or at least a consistent all-pro MVP caliber quarterback, the issues of this team were enough to just completely sink them. And you mentioned the running back room there, Rick. I think just whether Kelsey retires or not, you don't have a dynamic receiving threat in that room anymore. Xavier Worthy did miss time this year, but he hasn't necessarily looked the best when he's been out there. Rashee Rice has just been the definition of disappointment. Hollywood Brown has never made the impact that we thought he was going to make in each of the one-year deals that he has signed with KC. Because I believe he is a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. I think he re-upped on another one-year deal. If you're Kansas City, not saying the defense shouldn't get tweaked, because I think there are things they need to adjust there, but I think it is the offense that you need to hit on first. And that's going to be tricky for a team that, depending on where you look at, whether it's if you go to Over the Cap or if you go to Spotrac, this is not a team that has a lot of cap flexibility to play with. This is going to be a team they're going to need to rely on Chris Jones to convert salary into bonus. They're going to need to rely on Mahomes to do that as well. Probably not even just them. I think there's multiple players on each team on that team, maybe on both sides of the ball, that are going to have to end up doing that. This is a team that's going to have to hope that they can hit on the draft picks, but honestly, the draft picks have been a little hit or miss as well with Kansas City. This was a team that for a good 3-4 year run, it felt like they were just hitting on picks, but now this year, even some of their previous draft picks, like Trent McDuffie, he was fine this year when he played, but he hasn't leapt into being a Pro Bowl All-Pro guy, at least in my eyes. He's nowhere near the best corner in his division. We know who that title belongs to in the AFC West. George Karlaftis, that dude kind of fell off the map this season, no?
Karlaftis has had a good year.
If
you're watching their games, he's the highlight of that defensive line, especially the last couple games. I mean, last week he was on seemingly every play. Karlaftis has had a good year. But you're right. The question is not so much is Mahomes going to come back and be the same? It's what is he coming back to? It's really the question. And as good as some of these guys are, and when they're not having the MVP kind of defensive player of the years, what else is around them? And so far, it really just hasn't been much. So you're right. Karlaftis is playing well this year, but Karlaftis' ceiling is not, Nick Bosa or he's not a sack leader. He's not Aaron Donald. He's a very good player inside. He's really nice paired with Chris Jones, but that's not winning you a championship. You need more than that. Yeah. And so when these guys are having average years as opposed to, what we've thought that they've been in the past, where are you making up for it? Because the depth doesn't seem to be there anymore. And the flashy over the top plays aren't, and Pro Bowl players aren't seemingly there anymore. So where do you go from here?
Yeah, I mean, even you know, even depth wise, you go further down that whole list, and I mean, you expected more out of Noah Gray at some point, right? Like he just hasn't been at all useful, you know.
He's never
It's
been that guy to me, though.
no, but it's tough. Like I mean, you eventually knew you were gonna have to take somebody that would be the guy in the waiting wings when Kelsey finally, leaves, but he's never been that guy. Tyquan Thornton, for everything that he is, he can catch touchdowns with the best of them, fantastic. But he only has 19 catches on the season. He's not a threat. It's just it just begs a question. I mean, and it begs a question of what is this team when this team doesn't have a good offensive threat. When this team doesn't have a Tyreek Hill, or dare I say even a Kadarius Toney, the 1 year that he was good over there, when they're not running on all cylinders with a CEH, or when Pacheco's not running down your throat, what is this team? They're a Jawan Taylor half step away from another false start, basically, is what they are. And the old line injuries have killed them. They need depth problems there. Justin's right. The defense has been a problem. I mean, you mentioned their draft picks. Anadike Uzama was on IR before the season even started.
Yeah.
Omenahu hasn't been stellar. They're not getting pressures. They're not. Yeah.
And I just confirmed here, Rick, like to your point, bottom half of the league for interceptions, and I think close to, if not bottom 10 in sack production.
The only I would say the only guy that I would say is having a standout Pro Bowl, All Pro type season is Nick Bolton. That's it. He's the only guy that I would say would be having an All Pro season. I mean,
which is funny because I think if you ask some Chiefs fans, I've seen some Chiefs fans in the comments saying that Nick Bolton, they even expected more from him this year. Like they think this is a down year compared to what they thought he could do.
What did you want? 230 tackles? Like, come on.
I think he's fine, but some Chiefs fans would apparently disagree.
This season on a better Chiefs defense is a much better season. So, I mean, in theory, I get what they're saying, but there's only so much better than Duke. It's been everywhere.
I agree. No, I agree. I think Nick Bolton's been fine. Some people have, I don't know what kind of expectations there were on him going into the season.
I don't know.
But no, to the point, like I think we all agree that this is the way that we're talking about them is the way that we talk about a team like the Giants, a team like the Titans, where there's so many issues, it's going to take more than one off season to fix. But the unfortunate part is, if you're Kansas City, just because of expectations, because of where you've been for so long, like this miss is not going to stop people. They're going to be picked again to make the postseason next year. People are going to pick them. Some people might pick them to win the division coming back next year. Like that's going to happen. If you're Kansas City, you need to find a way to. Mahomes has to come back healthy. Like just run down a very quick, brief checklist, no detail, just on the surface. Mahomes has to come back healthy. You need to find one, if not two, better NFL caliber running backs because this current room is not going to get it done this year. Pacheco has unfortunately suffered from the Clyde Edwards-Helaire syndrome, who ironically returned to the team this year after being away from them last year. I didn't even realize that. The wide receiving core needs a massive boost. You need a new answer at tight end because, like you guys said, Noah Gray, he's a good backup. That's all he'll ever be. He's a good backup. The offensive line needs to get healthy, and even when they do, they need to not commit penalties every fifth play. The defensive line needs to overall get a bit more production. Like you guys said, Karlaftis is the sack leader. He has 6 sacks this season. It's more been a second half surge from him this year because he did have a slow start to the season. Chris Jones needs to find that all-pro play at least one more time in himself because I don't think he's been he's going to get votes because
how old is Chris Jones now? Is he part of their future?
Voters are lazy. Well, no. I'm not talking about 2027, 2028. Like, this team needs to somehow find a way to fix these issues, but be competitive again in 2026. Because when you have a Patrick Mahomes, this is what we talk about with Joe Burrow and Cincy the last couple of years. Like, because you have this guy, it is an obligation to do what you need to do to figure out how to compete the very next year. The thing is that for all the problems we point out for Cincy, looks like Kansas City had a lot more than people were willing to give any attention to.
Yep.
Which is, like, support around Karlaftis. I will give Karlaftis credit. He's had a much better second half of the season. Maybe I was a bit harsh, but there needs to be other guys around him that are producing. Chris Jones needs to find at least one more good year in him. And I stress the word one. Nick Bolton needs guys around him to help him. The secondary, I think the secondary is fine. It's probably the part that you can forgive the most, I think, of all the defensive levels.
Yep.
And then, like you said, Rick, like, you have to have a conversation about Harrison Butker. Like, you have to have a conversation. Tell me where you guys stand on this. I've heard a lot of people talking about this. I'm not just talking about Chiefs. I'm talking about it's been floated on NFL shows. It's been floated on podcasts. Is Andy Reid one for this team?
Well, listen, what I'm going to say, too, is don't be surprised if you see some coordinator shifts. For everything that has gone wrong this season, Steve Spagnuolo is still, I think, a guy who will get an interview or two for a head coaching position. But I can tell you Matt Nagy ain't getting that. I think Matt Nagy's got to go. I think you got to bring in a fresh offense there. That's a big key, too. And incidentally enough,
back the enemy?
I don't know if you do that, but maybe you try and lure away some quarterbacks coach from somewhere, to be, maybe, hey, you know what? Maybe Tanner Engstrand. You never know. Reclamation project. Didn't work in New York. Why not? What I will say this, too, speaking of that, you mentioned the cap space that they don't have. And you mentioned the running back room that they might need to refigure out. Well, it ain't going to happen through free agency because they're not going to be able to touch the contract levels that are for at least the 4 top or the 5 top running backs in free agency this year, which are Breece Hall, who's going to get top 5 money. It's Kenneth Walker, probably not going to get him for anything. Travis Etienne, who's going to stay with Jacksonville likely. Javonte Williams, who has found a home in Dallas. And the only other guy who's there is Rico Dowdle. And maybe you can convince Dowdle to go to Kansas City, but I think Carolina's going to – if Carolina finds a way to backdoor their way into the postseason, they're going to keep Dowdle and Hubbard and make that a two-headed committee and just forget that Bryce Young ever throws the football because he can't do that anyways. So, it's they're in a very tough spot. But this is the price you pay for being a dynasty is that when the fall comes – it's going to get ugly. And the only thing the Chiefs fans have to look back on and be thankful for, they're not the Raiders. Because it could be bowling shoe ugly, which is what the Raiders are.
And it could also be the fact that you didn't really accomplish anything at the time of your peak. Like, if you're Kansas City.
How old's the old man? At what point does Andy Reid turn around and say, I don't know if I want to go through rebuild? I know he's a football guy. It's in his blood stuff, but isn't he? He's almost 80. Is he in his 80s?
No, he's not. He's not that old. But he's getting up there. But he's not that old.
So he'll be 68 come next season.
Okay. So he's almost in his 70s.
Yeah.
But I will say, to Justin's point that he's bringing up, like this is why I'm saying that this team is going to operate with the idea that we're going to come back next year, and that's how. That. Whether we are thinking at the moment that's going to happen or not does not matter. Internally, the general manager, the head coach, everyone is going to operate as, okay, 2025 was a step back. 2025, they will hope to make it persona non grata for the rest of their tenure there. They're going to try to bounce back. The Andy Reid discussion, I think, will come more into effect in terms of retiring from football. Would more so be next season if it does look like, oh no, this might actually be a rebuilding team. Because it's a lot easier to be part of a rebuilding team in your 30s and 40s compared to your 60s going into your 70s. So it's going to, just ask Pete Carroll. I don't think he's enjoying the season with the Raiders. So, I don't think Andy Reid's gone. I also don't necessarily know if it would help Kansas City, just changing him out all of a sudden. I do agree with Rick, though. I think you just need a completely different offensive mind there. I honestly think it needs to be a guy who could bring a fresh perspective because whatever they've been doing the last 2 years has not been working. The Kansas City Chiefs have not been able to figure out the new too high safety thing on a consistent basis. They have not been able to figure it out when teams are able to blitz at you and they can drop their linebackers up on so much and use their secondary in such intricate ways. It feels like Andy Reid's offense is kind of run stale. And if next year's Chiefs offensive coordinator isn't someone new, we might have a little bit more of these same issues going into next season. Because this offense, I would lead it to Mahomes look great at times. I don't think this offense look great at all. I'm not going to be surprised if they go winless the rest of the season. Because I don't know if Minshew is going to be able to overcome this. So we'll see. The greatness of Gardner Minshew will be cut at the knees once again. But yeah, no, like this. Spagnuolo probably stays, even though he's also a guy that's like low-key getting up there just in terms of how long he's been a coordinator. Like at some point, whether it is being a head coach or just like spend time with kids, like spend time with your family. that dude does. If he wants to retire today, he's going in as a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator. Like we know that.
I think just to counter your point quickly, the Chiefs will probably go 2-1 to finish the year out because they have the Titans, the Raiders, and the Broncos.
See, I said this without knowing who their opponents were. So, in fairness.
But
the Titans winning there, baby.
How about that? But you know what the funny thing is?
The upset pick this week.
Yeah, but you know what the funny thing is too? How interesting is it going to be in Week 18 when the Chiefs will get flexed to Saturday, but it won't be because their game means nothing because they're in the playoffs. It means because the game literally means nothing because they're not going anywhere against the Raiders. Yeah,
yeah, literally because like what are the Raiders playing for at that point?
Possibly the number one pick, depending on how Week 17 goes.
I was going to say, as bad as we think the Raiders are, with
they're bad.
Imagine once they put in more backups. It's going to be a big game.
Aiden O'Connell is just really having a bad time right now. He'd be running this Raiders offense like no tomorrow. Sorry, Gino.
So someone give Ashton Genty more carries. That guy, that's more good. The disappointing season he's had, but I'm blaming Chip Kelly being there for most of the year.
Oh, 100%.
So there's that. But yeah, that is the bleak future of Kansas City. There is a lot. Like you said, Rick, we can even go more in depth. You can look at the top wide receivers. You can look at the top tight ends and look at the agency class. Look, say it with me, viewers. 1, 2, 3. The salary cap is a social
construct.
Kansas City will somehow find a way to clear up $40 million in cap space. They'll sign the third best tight end on the market. They'll get a top 5 receiver to go sign a 1-year deal with them. Like, if their black magic can still work, it'll work in the offseason. Maybe it just
I mean, nothing's to say that they might not try and reunite with Tyreek Hill, possibly.
That's still, I mean, season-ending injury. He had a brutal season-ending injury, but to your point, like, who's to say he doesn't get dealt?
They're saying that Tyreek might never play again. I mean, his injury was rough, and he's getting older. He's been talking about retirement. It looked like he had maybe lost a step this year. Now, don't get me wrong, Tyreek Hill losing a step is still like a top 25 wide receiver in this league compared to what he was, the way his route running was with that speed. But like, I don't necessarily know anyone's going after and giving up real assets for Tyreek. So if they're trading him, they might get, a bargain basement deal.
Yeah.
With
next year is the last year on his deal
restructure. It might be something that's very easy and just a quick deal for Miami.
Yep.
Yeah, just to get him off the books there. Miami has to fix a lot, clearly. So, but okay, we'll talk about them another time. Don't worry, the Professor Podfather's future two analysis set of classes is going to be legendary when he teaches those.
Can't wait for that. It's not a lot of fun.
Because it does need to be studied. That dude cannot play past Thanksgiving for the life of him. So there's that. For the Packers, short term and long term, there's definitely hope for them. Kansas City, short term, long term, you're going to need a lot to go your way. But let's stop talking about, the Chiefs are out of the playoffs, the Packers are. We're sick of talking about Green Bay the last couple of weeks. Let's talk about other playoff teams, boys, that are going to be part of this playoff push. The last 3 games of the regular season for all these teams are to be played. The last 3 weeks of us picking games also to be, picking games for the pick challenge. We do make postseason picks, but those really don't count towards anything. So some playoff push storylines here going into the penultimate and eventually final week of the 2025 season and then into the playoffs. So going to rapid fire. Well, it doesn't have to be rapid fire. It can be a bit of analysis, but this is mainly for you boys to sink your teeth into. First one, Podfather. Going to throw it to you. They were down. They weren't out. They came back and they won. Rick, can the Buffalo Bills take back the AFC East from the New England Patriots?
I mean, listen, after that win, after that comeback win, it's definitely possible. You'd say they're probably in the driver's seat. I think that's the nature of how this division is. I mean, for everything that New England did right, you're still a young team. You're still, in the throes of it. Now, there is one hurdle that Buffalo does have to work against here, and that would be that Week 17 game where they're against Philadelphia. Because, even though the Cowboys lost Sunday night and that probably kills their chances, they would have to basically win out and hope the Eagles lose out to have any kind of a chance here. That game still means something significant. I'd say both of these teams have one tough game remaining and two cakewalks. For the Patriots, it's this week they play Baltimore, which is a tough game because Baltimore's clinging to their playoff lives. Then they end with the Jets and the Dolphins. And then for the Bills, it's Cleveland, the tough one against Philadelphia, and then the Jets. Now, because of that, New England does still have a one-game lead over them. So I would potentially say that I think New England's got enough equity as long as they can just hold serve in the two games that they have, because they got a one-game lead on Buffalo. And if they go 2-1 and Buffalo goes 2-1, then one-game lead still holds. And so New England still wins the division. So I think Buffalo has had too many hiccups where, they could win out. They could still win out. But I think that Philadelphia game presents more problems than you think. So, and again, who's to say that Buffalo might not rest people in Week 18 against the Jets and give Brady Cook no pass rush to work with? Why not? So
the question here is, let's say New England loses this week.
Yeah.
To the Ravens, which is probably the last chance that we have for a real Jets fan to watch New England lose, because they play the Jets and the Dolphins after that.
Right.
And Buffalo wins out. And they are tied in the head-to-head matchup. And then they are tied in the divisional matchups. And then they are tied in the conference matchups. Who gets the tiebreaker?
I think it's strength of schedule after that, if I'm not mistaken.
That's an interesting thing. Now, to be fair, they would not be tied in divisional matchups now that I'm looking at it. But that's a weird. It's a weird that is closer than people think it is, because Buffalo only has one divisional matchup left. And they've already got two divisional losses, and New England can be 5-1 in the division if they win out.
Right. And not for nothing, also, there's still a way that Buffalo can claim the 1 seed. It's a long shot, but it's still a possibility here that with everything else going on, Buffalo could still find their way to that first round bye, and that would be dangerous. I mean, and New England could as well. They could still find their way to that first round bye.
The Chargers?
I don't know about the Chargers. If they win out, they'd be 13-4. It's a possibility. I think the Chargers, the Jaguars, Broncos, Patriots, Bills, those 5 teams have the best shot of
overtaking Broncos.
Seed. Yeah, I mean, Broncos have the Broncos have right now in percentage points and a better record. But
they have the best record in the league at 12-2.
Yeah. So
outright best, and they face Jacksonville and Kansas City before their Week 18 finale against the Chargers.
Oh, listen, that's
a tough schedule.
That's a very tough final 3 games. Jacksonville's on a heater right now.
They've been so weird this season, Jacksonville.
It's been such a strange year, man. It really has.
It would be very Trevor Lawrence to drop the last 2 of the last 3 games.
But it would also be very Liam Cohen for them to be the number 1 overall seed.
It really would. Well, forget even the number 1 seed. Just for Trevor Lawrence to have the best game of his career in Denver against the Broncos. He'll finally look like Clemson Trevor Lawrence again. He'll put up 450 and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
It would be very Jacksonville for that to happen.
Yeah.
So
who's but for Buffalo, going back to that point, yes, they can. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for them to do.
Yeah. They needed a lot of help, to say the very least. So that's what it's going to be. All right. I think Justin said it, gave enough of his 2 cents there, and he's hoping for the Patriots to lose every single week, so I think we know where he stands there. So, Justin, you can kick us off on this next one, which is a similar question, looking at it this is looking at a perspective from the higher seed right now. We sort of talked about this last week, but it was more of a disappointing aspect for these teams. But can the Steelers hold off the Ravens? The Ravens got a much-needed victory this week against Cincinnati, not only firmly knocking them out of the postseason picture, which, to be honest, since he was probably never going to have a chance to begin with. The Pittsburgh Steelers got a big win against the Miami Dolphins because, as we know, Tua can never play a good football game in December at all. They are now 8-6. The Ravens are 7-7. And not even slowly. It's very much looking like those two teams, the only way that they might be able to get into the postseason, either of them at this point, is winning this division, because you do have the fifth seed being the fifth seed and sixth seed being the 10-4 Chargers and Bills. Very fair shot that like those teams will each get to 11 wins, and it'll be just completely out of reach for them. For the others, I mean, even though Pittsburgh still could statistically get 11 wins, we are not necessarily the most confident in that. So assuming the fifth and the sixth seeds will be locked up, that seventh seed is very much in the conversation. It's looking tough right now because if you're the Steelers, if you lose this next week, you're going to be behind the Texans, behind the 8 ball. So, Justin, how can the Steelers hold off this surging Ravens team? Because realistically, it might come down to week 18. These two teams will face each other by then. The Pittsburgh Steelers schedule the next 2 weeks. For context, they are facing the Detroit Lions and the Cleveland Browns. Both of those games are away games, so they will be in Detroit and then they will be in Cleveland. And the Baltimore Ravens are at home against New England and then on the road against Green Bay, as we mentioned a little bit earlier on when we were talking about the Micah Parsons injury impact. So Steelers back-to-back games on the road. Ravens get a split. Don't really know how much of an edge you would give to one over the other. Like, they're both facing a tough NFC North team that is going to be fighting for playoff positioning. The Ravens, I guess you would say maybe it's a bit tougher because they have the Patriots compared to the Browns. So you might give a schedule edge to the Steelers there. I mean, what do you think? Can the Steelers ultimately hold off this Ravens squad?
Well, I think that realistically, if we look at it and then we just straight up choose chalk, it's going to come down to week 18. And the question is, can they beat the Ravens a second time this year? I think they can. I happen to think they're the better team now. It is tough to bet against the Ravens, who seem to be coming on, especially defensively, which was a major issue for them at the beginning and middle of the year. But it looks like that secondary has tightened up a little bit. Derrick Henry time has become, Derrick Henry time as it usually is in December. And now the question is, do you have your MVP level quarterback in Lamar, or do you have your banged up 2025 season NFL Lamar? And that's going to be really the determining factor, because it looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers are firing on all cylinders, regardless of everything that's thrown at them. Now, I'm not saying firing on all cylinders as if they're the best team in the league. I'm saying they're exactly who we thought they were. The Steelers are who we thought they were. And that is a team that is going to hover around 500 and either win their division and make the playoffs, or still be 500 and somehow slip away. So it's definitely possible. At this point, I think 2 weeks ago I was betting on the Ravens. Now I'm thinking maybe I'm leaning more towards the Steelers. But it's really, I really do think it's, no matter what, I think it's going to be a week 18 decision. We're not going to find this out next week. We're not going to find it out the week after. It is going to be week 18.
Well, one thing to note as I'm looking at these just standings here and like where they sit, somewhat similar case to what we were just talking about, how the Patriots still have the 2 division games remaining and the Bills only have the 1. So like the 3-1 versus 3-2. The Steelers are 3-1 in the division while the Ravens are 3-2. So technically speaking, I think there might be a scenario where if the Ravens beat the Steelers and they're tied, the Steelers would have the better division record and potentially the better AFC record, depending on how the Ravens finish out. So if you're the Ravens, I mean, obviously them losing this week would help, but you are kind of hoping you have to handle business. You need to go 2-0 against the tougher teams on paper, but you also need to hope for a Cleveland Browns upset.
You're relying on Shedeur Sanders to do something that he's incapable of doing. Let's call it what it is here.
According to some, you need to hope that they stop sabotaging him.
All I'm going to say is it's my byline this week. Mike Tomlin is inevitable. That's all it is.
There you go.
Now, look, I mean, I think the problem is, I think the Micah Parsons injury does kind of reshape that Baltimore-Green Bay game in a way. But to just
Watt healthy? Is he playing?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know about that. I think
Did he play last week?
No, he didn't. He was not. He did not play last week. That's why I didn't pick that game, because I think he had to collapse lung and surgery on that. So but regardless of him being out or being in, they still have a top tier defense that smothers opponents easily. Now, again, here's the big question here. Both of these teams have to play games against teams that are fighting for their playoff lives. This week, Pittsburgh's got Detroit. They're fighting for their playoff life. Baltimore has New England. They're probably safe, but safe being a top seed versus being a bottom seed and playing a road game. Big question marks there. The Browns game is the only hiccup. Pittsburgh is going to be favored in that game by at least double digits, I think.
Yeah.
And they don't have to win big. They just have to win.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, that Green Bay game is really tricky for Baltimore. And to Justin's point, which Ravens team are we going to see? The one that rattled off 5 straight wins, or the one that had 4 straight losses beforehand? If there's one thing we know about Baltimore, and we know a lot of things about Baltimore, it's that they are one bad day away, one bad hardball call, one bad Lamar Jackson throw away from basically giving this division to Pittsburgh right now.
Yep.
So that Week 18 game could be for naught, depending on how those first 2 games go. I think it will finish up in Week 18, but don't be surprised if Pittsburgh has this sewn up by Week 17.
Yeah. Like I think more than anything else, of course, the Ravens do have to handle business. Like this is all a moot point if they split and Steelers split as well. But I mean, in the case where they both split, then you need the loss to be against the Browns more than anything else. Like the Browns, this is an amazing sentence to say, the Cleveland Browns will play a role in deciding the AFC North winner of 2025. It's kind of a funny sentence when you think about it.
We're the Cleveland Browns.
Shador Sanders will play a role in who wins the AFC North this season. Just not the way you would have thought of this 1 year ago.
Well, better him than Flacco, I guess.
It seems so. It seems very much so. So it's going to be tough. I want it to go down to Week 18, but I think there's a real chance. And how tragic it would be for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens that the year that the Chiefs miss the postseason, they might miss the postseason as well.
Well, you know what the other greater irony is, too? I think it was last year or a couple of years ago that Pittsburgh walked their way in as the 7 seed with Mason Rudolph as the quarterback and had to go to Buffalo. Depending on how it shakes out, Buffalo may have to go to Pittsburgh as the 5 seed this year if it shakes out a certain way. What irony is that? Josh Allen on the road in a hostile environment in Heinz Field. It's not calling it Acrisure Stadium.
Obviously, going to wait until the playoff picture gets solidified. But man, oh man, if you're Buffalo right now, it's soft. It's so soft. Mm-hmm. But do you hear it? Do you hear the rumbling? Do you hear the howls of the ghosts of the past coming to you?
Do you hear me saying, "Fire McDermott, fire McDermott"?
Oh, we hear that every time towards the end of this year after you get your 13, 14 weeks of fire LaFleur.
Sure.
So speaking of which, going back to the NFC North here briefly, but we're sort of talking about the Packers and the Lions here, but we're talking about another team. Rick, we're going to start this off with you. It's only right we start this off with you.
The Vikings, right?
Yes,
the
absolutely. 9. No. Podfather, your former team will the Bears end up winning the NFC North.
Who would have thought it, right? Who would have thought that would be the conversation?
Your buddy Adam Rank would have thought it.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, he thinks it's going to happen every single year.
Best friend.
I was going to say, if you make the same prediction for like 12 years in a row, one of those years it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Adam Rank to pop out of the closet one day behind you.
Oh yeah. Well, I was going to say, let's.
Well, that doesn't have to mean everything that you think it means.
Let's clarify that.
That's not this kind of podcast, all right?
I know. Let's clarify that.
We're okay with that. If that's what Adam Rank chooses in his heart.
Of course we are. The only thing that's hampering the Bears from winning the division this year is they have a veritable gauntlet of a schedule in the final 3. You've got the Packers, who are in free fall. the Niners, who could still win the number 1 seed, and the Lions, who are still trying to hang on to something. That's the only thing giving me pause. The Bears have been great this whole season, don't get me wrong. But there's a case where they can still finish 10-7. And if they finish 10-7, I mean, I don't think they'll be on the outside looking in. They'll probably finish up as like a 6 or 7 seed, I would say. But it's possible that they could finish 10-7 and maybe be out. I have to just check the scenarios in my head, but it's a possibility. I mean, I think you have all 3 teams in the NFC West who, well, minus Arizona, because Kyler's playing ops or whatever. You only have three teams in the West make it. So there go 2 your wild cards basically already. You have 3 teams in the North fighting for 1 spot, basically 2 spots essentially. The Bears could finish 10-7 and be on the outside looking in. It's not. The more I talk about it, the more it seems like a real possibility. They have to win one of these next 3 games in order to make any kind of sense. But it's really tricky because 2 divisional opponents and the Niners.
Yep. To your point, there, if they do go 0-3, the Lions would just need to win 2 out of 3 because then they would have the head-to-head over Chicago because they destroyed them earlier this season. Now, both those teams are vastly different now compared to what they were early in the year. But if the status quo holds, it wouldn't look good for Chicago. So to your point, like we were mentioning it before, and like what's important, to me, Rick, I think of the remaining games, the one with the most permutations is that Bears-Packers game. Because it's going to decide the fate for all 3 of these teams going forward, and how critical each game is, what everything means, and because the Packers, like we've been talking about that tie have been that tie might end up being their detriment at the end of the season. Yeah, truthfully, it very much could wrong. Because you could beat the Cowboys, that could make the difference between you just missing out on the postseason. That's
why this week is so critical for Chicago. Take care of business. Win this game against the Packers, silences all doubt. 11-4, you're good. You're in. No more conversations. I think 11-6 gets them in. I can't see the same for 10-7. I don't have any kind of backup.
10-7 needs help.
10-7 needs help. 11-6, I think you're good. I think
11-6 clinches them. I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah, I think so too. I just don't know where they would be. But I think 11-6 clinches the spot. But I don't know where they'd end up. But you got to win this game. And then let the other games fall where they may.
I think if they beat Green Bay, it's a fair shot that they win this division, which Ben Johnson in year 1, making Caleb Williams look like he could actually, throw the football a little bit, make it look like that number 1 overall pick potential is there after all. And then B, winning this division, with a division that had 2 teams win 14, 15-ish games last year.
Yep.
One of them was the number 1 seed, and the other team that made the Micah Parsons trade, you win this division?
Yep.
All due respect to Mike Vrabel. That might be the coach of the year right there. Again, why don't we just have co-coach of the year? You can have multiple coaches win it.
It's weird to think that
because then you got to give it to Liam.
Bears' issue might have just been coaching. I don't know.
Is it really weird to think that?
Hey, New York, take notes.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone had mentioned it before that maybe Chicago, the only issue that we had all the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years was maybe just coaching.
See, this is the fun part. I don't necessarily I don't think that's such a hot take. Like when you think about the mid 2010s, like the Bears had decent rosters on paper. Like I think of the 2010s teams that had a really strong secondary on paper with the likes of Dexter Jackson and such, and Khalil Mack there. And if you just had a little bit better coaching, maybe a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky would have helped. That could have helped. If you had the right coach to help out Justin Fields, maybe you could have snuck a wild card appearance in one of those seasons there. And now you're seeing it here. Like the difference between Caleb Williams and this team with Matt Eberflus versus with Ben Johnson. Again, they did make some small improvements in the offseason. We do need to give them a little bit of credit. Roma Dunze has been better this year than last year. According to his father, he should get the football more, but let's be real here. He's still having a fine
year this week, so
right. There you go.
So ultimately, it's it's actually not surprising to think that good head coaching would help. Like this just needs to be a lesson. If if you don't have the structure in place, a rookie quarterback is not going to thrive. And it's going to not look good.
So, Justin, to your point about the tiebreakers, too, I have a point about the Bears as well, but to your point about the tiebreakers, so I'm looking at the standings. So, Tampa right now has the advantage over Carolina. They have the same record and same division record, and like they have, I think, a hairy split in conference. Tampa gets the edge over Carolina because of not head-to-head, best win percentage in common games against common opponents. So it goes beyond divisional. So that might be the next tiebreaker that's there. With the Bears, the one thing you have to do if you beat the Packers, I think, are they home any of those last two games against San Fran or against Detroit?
Who are the Bears?
Yeah.
Stand by. I can confirm that in a moment. Because I know they're home against the Packers. So they're home against Detroit in Week 18. They are in San Francisco.
So if they beat Green Bay this week, Week 18, you want to rectify the situation, Cody Parkey does the coin toss pregame. Wipe away the double doink. Wipe it away. This is a brand new Bears team. This ain't your Mark Trestmans. This ain't your John Foxes or your Matt Nagy's or your Eberfluses. This ain't your Jay Cutlers.
I don't know if I'm tempting fate, Rick.
This ain't your Caleb Haney's.
I don't know if I'm tempting fate here.
I was gonna say I still don't think Cody Parkey's allowed in the city of Chicago.
Okay, fine. Still, if anyone will do it, Adam will do it.
I know we said we were only going to touch upon this also, but I just looked at the schedule. Very interesting that NFC South, considering that the two teams that are still alive play each other twice out of the next 3 weeks.
We call that a transition in the business, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Justin. On the last topic we have here for this week's playoff push storylines, will the NFC South winner make any noise come postseason? So, kind of like Justin just noted there, the two teams that are at the top of the NFC South, because the Saints were never going to do anything this year, and the Falcons once again disappointed everyone, as we all kind of expected they were going to at the end. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who you want to talk about what injuries and attrition can do to a team in the season, look no further than the 2025 and the 2025 Carolina Panthers. Look no further than being ahead of the curve. But it's very interesting to see what this is. So it is this first game this week, like Justin said, week 16 to 18. This week's game is in Tampa Bay, and then the week 18 game. Excuse me. This week's game is in Carolina, and the week 18 game is going to be in Tampa Bay. The difference maker is in week 17, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be at Miami, and in week 17, the Carolina Panthers will be hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Now, do with that information what you must. This isn't necessarily who you're going to pick as the NFC South winner. I think that would also be an interesting question. So if either of you want to make note of that in your response, please do so. But whoever ends up winning this division, do we really have any expectations of them going into the postseason? Because let's say things relatively hold, and of course we know that the winner of this division is going to end up, because the Eagles are probably going to win one more game. So at minimum. So let's just say 4th seed comfortably is going to be the NFC South winner. It's going to be the Seahawks or the 49ers in that game that they're facing.
Let me just say this for that question. Do we remember, I don't remember the exact week, it was about early October, what the shootout of the year was, and a nail-biter ending on the 4 o'clock window when Sam Darnold versus Baker Mayfield in what was arguably one of the most fun games to watch this year.
The former Carolina Panther quarterback bowl.
and it came down to a Sam Darnold interception late that gave the Bucs the go-ahead field goal, but they both had like thrown for 4 touchdowns each and like 400 yards. That was an electric game. And I know the Seahawks have really turned it on since then, and the Bucs have really fallen apart since then. But that could be a really good playoff game, especially in Tampa.
Can you say the Seahawks have turned it on since then? I mean, they just barely scratched their way to beat Phillip Rivers and the Colts this past week with 6 field goals for Jason Myers. It's good. It's a great. Don't get me wrong, but the fact that you couldn't get anything on offense other than 6 field goals from Jason Myers, to me, is a bit of a question mark there.
I disagree. Look, sometimes you need to be able to prove that you could win ugly, and they played a really good defensive team, a team that was down on their luck with a new quarterback. They held them down for sure, but guess what? They were able to win ugly. Sam was able to put them in position to get those field goals, and the team was able to win an ugly game against what was a playoff team and arguably the best team in the NFL the first 8-9 weeks of the year. It's not like that they've fallen off that far that all of a sudden they're the worst team in the league, but like they won an ugly game against a good team. I'm not holding that against them. And now they're an 11-3 team this late. I mean, did you guys have them even making the playoffs? Was I the only one that had them making the playoffs?
I thought I did.
I can't remember. I don't know.
I'm just saying, this is not. We did not expect Seattle to be 11-3 in week 14. All right, even with them making the playoffs, I said they would be a sneaky good team. I think I had them as my 7th seed. You know, this is a good team, and there's still something there in Tampa Bay. I know that they've been very hit or miss down the stretch. That could still be an excellent game.
They have to get there first.
Absolutely. But I'm not saying listen, it would be a different game with Carolina there, but I'm not saying it would be a bad game either. I think that any one of those 3 teams could win that game.
So the question is, will the NFC South winner make any noise in the postseason? And I think, to Justin's point, it depends on who the matchup is.
It depends what you mean by noise too. Winning one game, is that making noise? I think.
Well,
I mean, for how this season has gone for both, yes.
I mean, let's put it in perspective like this: if an 8-9 division winner knocks out a 13-4 first wild card, I think that is making some noise.
I agree.
If it's San Francisco, that's the 5 seed. No, it's not happening. But if it's Seattle, I could see Seattle getting a little rattled. I can
see Brock Purdy having a rough game. You can't see if it's Carolina versus San Francisco and it's another shot at Carolina, taking a little bit of revenge because I know they got smacked the first time they played. You can't see maybe Darnold throwing 2-3 picks. Not Darnold. Purdy throwing 2-3 picks and making that game close.
That's why I have Mac Jones, baby.
I'm just saying. I'm not sitting here saying I expect it. I would expect San Francisco to smack them. All I'm saying is, if that's the matchup, I don't think the matchup is as good if it was like Tampa, San Francisco, but Carolina, San Francisco, I think if it comes back down to it, it's a better matchup than we saw the first time.
I think it is, but I do believe that when it comes time for Kyle Shanahan to turn things up on defense and turn things up in the postseason, that he will do so. And I believe that that's a case where, and again, there's still a chance that it could be the Rams. We're all forgetting that it could still be the Rams that are the 5 seed. And if that's the matchup, good luck.
And I'm saying this right now,
technically,
the Rams ain't losing to Carolina again if they face that is a team that's angry about how the first game went.
Again, all the Rams have done is clinch a playoff spot. That's it. So that's the wildest of the NFC West. It's the Rams. Like I said, the Rams could fall to the 6. There's a world in which that happens. Yeah. I don't know if I want to live in that world per se, but there's a world in which that happens.
The 6th seed in the NFC could become the first seed.
Would you rather? Would you rather play in the NFC West or the NFC North?
Ooh.
Surprise, would you rather? Oh, boy.
Ooh, that's dicey.
Are you saying right now?
Right now, if you're a team and you were like, all right, I get to choose my division, would you rather be in the NFC West or the NFC North?
I assume that decision means I'm supplanting the 4th place team, which means I'm either going to be replacing the Vikings or replacing the Cardinals.
I don't know.
Neither of them are great options.
Yeah.
I think given the state of the flux of the North, that's the division that I would go with. Because Jordan Love is inconsistent. They don't have Watson. They don't have Parsons. They don't know who they're going to be. The Lions are desperate, and desperation means that they're going to make mistakes. All I have to worry about is the Bears, really. And the Bears are young. They're talented, but they're inexperienced when it comes to this. So I would pick the North over the West because that Western division is a veritable gauntlet. It's either the guillotine or it's the firing squad. Which is your choice? Take your pick. So I'd say I'd go in the North.
I wonder which one is which in this case.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're strictly going off of this season because of the flux of the division, you probably would pick the North. If you'd have to say maybe like looking into 2026, I think the fact that the Rams, like Stafford's going to be another year older, so it's not a guarantee who the quarterback is there. The Niners get 3 to 5 season-ending injuries on the roster to key players every single year, and the Seahawks are doing good this year. They might they could lose a couple pieces this year if I'm not mistaken. All right, so
Yeah.
it's a scenario where it's like maybe going forward again you would maybe look at the West, but right now you probably would have to pick the NFC North. I usually try to be the devil's advocate here, but like Rick said, it's like guillotine or firing squad, and I don't know which one would be which in this scenario. Like you better hope it's some stormtroopers on that firing squad, I guess.
It's dicey, man. It's dicey.
So there it is. All right. Well, lads, that concludes the playoff push storylines this week. We'll have a little bit of fun here in the coming weeks. We're going to bring back out the tier list here, and once we get closer to clinching the postseason, maybe once we have it fully clinched here, in terms of how we're feeling about playoff teams going into it. We need a couple more teams clinched before we do a tier list here. We'll have some fun with. But what we never have to wait for playoff spots to clinch to have fun with is your favorite, the hashtag SAOC Pick Challenge, where on a weekly basis, the Podfather, Justin, and I look across the NFL landscape and make games on a 4-to-1 point basis scale, 4 being the most confident we are in our selection, 1 being the least amount of confidence we have in our selection. We must all make 4 selections with a minimum of 1 upset pick amongst our 4 choices, and that upset pick must be, at the lowest, your 2-point pick. No one has ever broken this rule. I don't think we'll ever see that happen. So there's that. You can pick a tie if you do so choose. It must be used with your 4-point pick that gets upgraded to a 5-point pick, and a perfect week for you, if you get 10 points, becomes an 11-point week. So that's a pretty good thing to have, to say the very least. And the concept of, because I mentioned upsets there, who is an upset, who is favored into a game, we don't necessarily we're not picking covering the spread. We're just picking outright winners in our picks, but we do use lines to help us decide who are upsets going into games, and we use that via the lines given to us, I should say, by our friends at
DraftKings.
There we go.
Ooh.
Our 3rd or 4th different friend we've had.
Yes.
At least
Yeah, I think 3rd. Caesar Sports.
I didn't like ESPN bet.
I'm not a fan of it myself.
Yeah, it was too much of a mouthful.
Clearly, the company didn't like it either.
Yeah, Caesar Sportsbook was nice, but DraftKings feels right, you know.
DraftKings feels good. Caesar Sportsbook's that one rolled off the tongue well for Justin. I feel like Justin loved saying Caesar Sportsbook.
It was good.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I made my bread and butter. That was my catchphrase.
There you go. So with that being said, Podfather, you can update us on the pick challenge as it states, because currently there is a chance that going into the last week, going into week 18, the pick challenge could be wrapped up, which would be the first time ever in the show's history that the pick challenge would end pre-week 18 picks.
Well,
technically that's not true, because we did do the thing the first year, because I was so far ahead, we did every game between me and you, Jerg, and Rick was out, right?
yeah, but you weren't far ahead.
I mean, the thing was, that mathematically,
it was not catchable unless we did that.
But the whole point was mathematically, I still had the chance, and I ended up.
You only had the chance because we decided to pick every game, as opposed to.
No, he only had the chance because you stupidly picked the 5-point tie because you missed your 4-point pick.
Dude, that was
Lovie Smith killed you, man.
Lovie Smith, that was a tie. Why go for 2? You
Yes.
cost yourself the number 1 overall pick. Why do that?
I did not expect old wounds to be reopened here.
They're rehashed, my
You
friend.
didn't expect old wounds. Rick and I are talking about the pick challenge. You didn't expect old wounds to come in.
on,
Fair
now.
enough. But no. Here's the thing: like, it was always going to be a thing of if per mathematical probabilities, if someone was close to you in the first year, one of us would. If I had been in 3rd place in year 1, I would have given it up to Rick to give him the chance against you in year 1.
I'm not saying
you're both wrong. So silence while I tell you the historical facts of what happened there.
He is the record keeper.
Going into that last week, Justin, you were down 5 points initially, but remember that Monday night game was the DeMar Hamlin game. So we stopped that game as it was, and then we did a wheel spin to get you your points. So then you were only down by, I think, 2 going into that week. I was so far back, actually with the same point total that I have currently, that I backed off, which started our week 18 tradition of a head-to-head battle in that sort of sense. So that's how that all started up there. And then it was 4 AFC and 4 NFC each way. And
real quick,
the tie.
It goes without saying, if you have a mathematical chance to usurp the leader come week 18, you are given. He's turning off video because you mentioned it again.
Move on.
If you have a mathematical probability to usurp the winner in week 18, then you get the right to do so. Like if you are 21 points ahead entering week 18, Justin, there is no heads ahead between us. You are going to outright be the winner of the pick challenge. But
I understand how math works. That's not what I was saying.
Well, there is a nuclear option that I've
just
decided.
That ain't happening, dude.
I know it ain't happening. No. So the nuclear option, just to let you guys know, is that so basically what would come down to is that in week 18, if it is far enough out that it wouldn't be settled by head-to-head, essentially whoever's in second place, if they dared to go that route, would have to get all 16 picks correctly. And that would then give them not only the championship, but also the gosh darn Powerball numbers.
Okay,
at this point.
Not what I thought you were going to go with.
If you're going to do that, you should also download one of these apps and put the $5 on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If you get that, it's worth the payout.
Do it, 100%.
Yeah.
Like at that point, just put a straight up parlay.
What was the nuclear option you were thinking I was going with there, George?
I thought what the nuclear option was is that
wipe the boards.
No. What I thought it was going to be was let's say Justin is 21 points ahead by week 18, but we still do it full. I get all 8 games right for 10, that's 20. He gets all the other way, all 0. I'm down by 1, but then we always have a tiebreaker point through college football, and I would get that right. And then it would just be even more
because now that they basically killed the college football playoff. Now that it's 2 weeks later, then it ends. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so that's the nuclear option is that Jerk, since you're going to be in second place, basically, if it's inevitable at that point, then Justin and I will just lay out and you'll get all 16 games. Good luck to you.
Oh, we can still pick though.
We can still pick for fun, but Jerk's going to have a little more on the line. Jerk's going to have his house or his apartment on the line rather than that much.
I renewed my lease, so that's not going anywhere.
Oh, there you go. In any event, so we're throwing this hypothetical 21 points out there. It's 15 currently because Justin had a perfect week last week, as is the case that has been happening.
Perfect weeks have I had this year? I feel like I'm having a good year in this and this only.
I'm going to tell you, you've had 2 perfect weeks in the last 4, so you've been doing pretty well. Actually, in the last 4 weeks, you have had 13 of 16 picks correct. So you've been doing pretty well for yourself there. So you went from 104 to 115. Jurg, unfortunately, the Bengals decided to not show up for you because that would have been your perfect week. But you do break triple digits, so you do have 100 on the nose, which is quite nice for you. For me, the Bears were my only help and my only friend there. So I'm at 79. So there's an outside chance that I can get to 100, which would be nice that the 3 humanoids would get 100 points there. Well, you say humanoids, but because in the past it's been mascots and entities that Justin hates. But it's the kids, and they're at 71 because they got the Falcons. Somehow the Falcons won on Thursday night, and then the Rams. So that's where we are now. It's 115 for Justin, 100 for Jurg, 79 for myself, and 71 for the kids. So it's doable. It's possible, but it might be over after this week, depending on what happens here. If Justin pulls off another perfect week, which he's been kind of on fire, but I'm starting to question a little bit. I'm starting to wonder if he's maybe tipping his hand here a little bit here and there.
Jinx, don't jinx me because it's the exact week I'll go winless.
Oh, I'm jinxing
Don't jinx me.
I'm jinxing you. For the ratings, bro. For the ratings, bro.
All right, calm down there, Russo.
Yeah, okay, bro. In any event, so that's.
I'm curious how many perfect weeks Justin has on the year because I look back because I keep my picks personally for myself. I have 3 perfect weeks this season. I feel like I need a perfect week this week to be any kind of realistic shot for.
Honestly, this year I don't remember who I picked tomorrow. So
you need a perfect week basically every week the rest of the season at this point. But yeah, a perfect week this week gets you to 111, and based on whatever Justin does. So that's the real question right there. So let's go to our picks. For this week, there are several games that have a nice wide spread, and then there are a lot of games that are closer in margin here. I'm going to take a game that I believe it's not the highest spread, but it's a very high spread in this one, and I think based upon what happened last week, it's the one that makes the most sense for me to take. It's going to be the Bills over the Browns at 4 points. Buffalo's firing all cylinders. Cleveland's a joke, which is just how Cleveland is. And so, Buffalo, 4 points here. Wouldn't be surprised if they lose, though, because I picked them. So the problem is, Jerg, too, that I'm not clear of the kids yet. Because if I was clear of the kids, I could get a little loosey-goosey and have some fun with my picks.
Right. No, I'm not blaming you.
Because I want to make sure that I'm close enough, I'm far enough ahead to kind of have a little more fun. I'm taking games from you that probably would have helped you in your perfect week inevitability.
I mean, I still have
that, Rick. You do what you got to do.
Yeah, I know, Justin.
I have two games here I really like. I might be sacrificing my upset here with this, but like 2 weeks ago, this team's defense had arguably one of their signature games of the season. A week ago, they put up 40 points. Give me the Texans as my 4-point pick.
I mean, if they don't beat the Raiders, then there's really no shot for them to do pretty much anything. And D'Amico Ryan should be fired on the spot.
No shot for them nor me. So
that's true. That's true.
I feel like I've had a rough go of the 4-point picks here in the second half of the season, so I really need them to.
Boy, wouldn't it be ironic though if Geno Smith, your Ring of Honor candidate in Vegas, completely ended your run to your third championship?
He might.
He might.
Look.
I know he's starting.
Look, let me clarify something. Lando won the driver's title. McLaren won the constructors. I won F1 fantasy. I'm a happy camper this season.
Okay. All right. Good for you.
This is the cherry on top this year.
Okay. All right, Justin, back-to-back picks for you.
Well,
Maz just say
that when I do well, I've been riding this team, and though they're having a down year, I think this is probably the next best game, at least the one that I feel the most confident in going into the week outside of the two that were just picked, and that is going to have to be Philadelphia over Washington. I am going to do the rare Justin 3-point upset also because, frankly, I'm not really sure why this team would be not the favorite. I know they're on the road here.
Oh, he took my pick.
But I'm gonna take the Chargers.
Ooh, okay. By the way, Justin, this is your third consecutive week picking the Eagles. They won last week. They did not win the week prior.
I know, but generally when I do well, it's
no.
I've for the last 4 years I've ridden the Eagles.
Actually, you missed out on a golden opportunity unless it comes back to you because you have picked the team 3 straight weeks in a row and they've won 3 straight weeks in a row. So,
which team?
Seattle.
I know, but on a Thursday night, I didn't trust it, and also they play the Rams, which is a rough game.
Yeah.
That's not worth a 4 or 3-point pick in my mind. Too many variables.
Okay.
By the way, also that's a tough game. I get why the NFL would want to put that on Thursday. For those teams, for such a pivotal game to be a Thursday night, bullshit. Because everyone hates Thursday night games.
For sleepy Al Michaels to be on the call for
that game should realistically, if you could flex games, that should be the Monday night game. Like Colts Niners should be the Thursday night game.
Yeah, agreed. Because that's just as good a game. In theory, in terms of actual repercussions and seeding and stuff like that, but yeah. All right. Anyways,
this is also Justin's second straight week picking the Chargers as an upset selection. By the way,
got it right last time.
Yeah, you did. Yes, you did. Jerg,
Man.
your back's against the wall, buddy.
I know this is such an ugly week.
It's not pretty. It's not pretty.
By the way, Dirk, this halftime report for the NBA Cup is crazy. It's Dirk, Steve Nash, Blake Griffin, and Udonis Haslem.
Wow.
Well, this is the Amazon.
Who's the host?
I don't know. I don't watch
Udonis
to recognize her. No, there's a woman there too.
Okay. I think it's Taylor Rooks is the Amazon host.
Could be, but they do not have a name on the screen. I just recognize the photos.
I see.
Okay. This team has scorned me a couple times, which worries me. But my logic is this is a This is a must win. This is a must win for this team's playoff hopes.
It's not the Jets.
I mean, it's not the Bengals, and you picked them 2 weeks in a row, and they've messed them up both times. So can't be them.
This is the week to pick the Bengals.
It is the week, yeah.
Give me the Lions with my 3-point pick.
Ooh.
That's interesting.
That's
There's other teams I think I would have picked before them.
that's a dicey selection there. It really is. That's tough. All right. So what that does in theory is then that takes out basically, because I'm going to take San Francisco at my 3-pointer, so I have to go upset here at 2. Looking at the spread lines, with only one exception, every game is under 3.5 point spread. Right now, for some reason, the Saints are getting 4.5 on Brady Cook and the Jets.
Coughing baby versus coughing baby.
And you know what? Just because I want to make it even tougher and want to give you guys a little more room to sweat, I'll take the Jets as an upset pick at 2. Because I have a feeling...
Was not going to pick them.
I know. I have a feeling that this is going to be a fun game of just disaster. So what would not be more Jets than winning in New Orleans and killing your chances further of trading up for Fernando Mendoza?
I'll do you one better, Rick. I will be in attendance at that game.
Ooh. Oh, that's right. You'll be in NOLA.
I'll be in New Orleans. I leave Friday.
There you go.
And I fully expect that to happen.
Where are you staying, by the way?
French Quarter Marriott.
Nice. Yes. Nice. When I was down there, I was in a Holiday Inn Express on that far from Superdome, actually. So good spot on there.
I've never been down. I'm excited.
No, I'll give you a good restaurant recommendation too when we have time, because I had some good alligator down there too. If you're into that sort of thing.
I've never had. I have had alligator actually. Yeah. I would love to have some. I really need to get some gumbo. I got to get some beignets. I'm excited about the food, and I'm excited to also see the Zion-less Pelicans play against the Halliburton-less Pacers.
Oh
it's going to be so much fun.
That's a toothless game right there.
When we bought the ticket, Zion was supposed to be playing.
That's true. Yeah.
That is like, the definition. That is
2
a
weeks ago. They announced
game.
it for 3 weeks, and I was like,
"All right, so Jurg, you have to go upset here."
Right.
The largest spread remaining would be Tennessee over Kansas City at 3.5. There's a bunch of 3s, and then you have 1 2.5, and you have 3 1.5 point spreads remaining. So.
I think this pick more than anything is going to end up. I feel like I've been terrible with my upset picks this year, like just a negative record.
Let me take a look here. Over 1, over 2, over 3. 1
you don't have to say it out loud.
1 and 5, 2 and 6 in the last 8 weeks for upsets.
Yeah.
So might be your death knell.
They just might. Wait, is this guy hurt? But is he hurt? But if he's not hurt, then is he hurt?
Jalen Hurts?
No. What if Justin already picked the Eagles?
I know, but still.
Like, no, hold on. I'm doing research because I'm curious. I think I know the upset pick I want to make. I know it's going to get a reaction out of both of you, but I need to confirm if two specific players, what their statuses are for.
All right, Justin, where do you think he's going? I think I have an idea, but I don't know who's hurt and who's not hurt that he's thinking about.
I don't know. I mean, do you think he goes? You think he goes with Tennessee?
No, I think that's too easy, even for him.
For the gimmick, I should have taken out the Ryan Tannehill jersey and put it on.
I was gonna say, I almost wonder if maybe he's gonna go Seattle over the Rams because Devontae's situation or Puka's cramps, maybe.
That could be it.
Yeah, I mean, does he dare go for the Thursday night game and kill his chances even further? I don't know. The only other one that I thought would make sense, but I don't know if there's any injuries, is Jacksonville over Denver. But I don't know. By the way, Nick's trailing at the half, or
I think it's tied.
Oh, good.
Honestly, I don't remember off the top of my head.
While he's debating, Justin, do you want him to raise a banner if they win or no?
Who gives a crap about the NBA Cup?
It's league mandated. They have to raise a banner, though.
Who cares?
Make it like nice and small, like a little, like a pixel. All right, Jared.
Yes.
All right. You know what? I'm going down with the ship.
Arizona over Atlanta.
No. Don't make my picks for me.
Private Bride, baby.
Look. When no one else believed, we believed. And they've kept pounding. They need this win. Give me the Carolina Panthers with my 2-point upset. Hey, when Bryce Young puts up 400 yards in this one, just you wait, buddy.
All right. That's fine. So again, by virtue of going with a 3-point upset here, Justin can take favorites the rest of the way if he wants to, which he probably will, knowing Justin.
He's going
Does
to.
sound like Justin.
He's soft and cheap like that, so it's fine.
I don't care. Whatever it takes to win the game.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take. Has anyone taken the Patriots?
No.
Okay.
Still on the board.
Neither will I, because I hate that team. Let's go with the Minnesota Vikings at 2
Okay.
and the Tennessee Titans at 1.
So upset at 1 with the Titans. Upset at 3 with the Chargers. It's fair. All right, Jerk. You have your 1-pointer here.
Can you remind me what games are currently available at this moment?
So you've got Rams Seahawks available.
Okay.
Packers Bears. Bengals Dolphins. Jaguars Broncos. Falcons Cardinals. And Patriots Ravens.
Burrow's playing the rest of the season, is he?
I have not seen otherwise. Cincinnati is favored in this game by 2.5, so I'm led to believe that yes,
Okay.
he is going to finish the season.
That's the only thing I'm wondering about. Is just because it's weird. This feels like another one of these weird games. Hold on. They won that. They won that. And they won that. Yeah, how the fuck did they win that game?
Pink.
By the way, the Knicks were down 2 at halftime. They're currently down 8.
That Wembanyama was a special player, man.
7.
Yes. I'm.
3-point goal.
8.
Double upset special with my 1-point pick. They're 3-0 against the AFC West. Why not go 4-0? Jags at my 1.
Ooh. Okay. To be fair, I was looking at that game too for a 1-point pick on my side, but that's fine. That's fine. You know what? I'll take the Thursday night game, and I will take the Seahawks over the Rams as a little minor upset there. Just kind of want to see what happens there, so I'll go with that one. And for the children in attendance, they are taking Arizona at 4 over Atlanta. Cincinnati at 3. They will go Baltimore at 2. And then the last game would be... What's the last game? I'm trying to remember. Hold on. What's that last game? I'm losing my mind here. Oh, that one, yeah. They'll go Chicago with the upset pick. at 1. So to recap where we are, the children are bookending upsets here with Arizona at 4 and Chicago at 1. In the middle, they're going to go AFC North, Cincinnati, and Baltimore, 3-2 respectively. Myself, Buffalo, my 4, San Francisco, my 3, the Jets at 2, and Seattle at 1. 7 points is all I need, which is fine. Jurg, fighting for his life and fighting for that illustrious 3rd championship trophy. Houston at 4, Detroit at 3, Carolina at 2, Jacksonville at 1. 2-1 are upsets. Justin looking to close this one out early and make the last 3 weeks mean basically nothing. Philadelphia at 4, the Chargers at 3, Minnesota at 2, and Tennessee at 1. Nary a tie to be seen. So there we go.
So that concludes that. Will Justin have this wrapped up early? Only time will tell. Only time will tell. And this would be the first year where the pick challenge does not come down to the very end.
It's true.
Which honestly, it's Rick constantly reminding us the fact that the pick challenge, that I led the pick challenge in the first season to begin with. I generally completely forgot about that.
Amen. There's moments in podcast history that will be remembered forever, including Justin's expletive rating rant on the Jets last season, which was glorious. It was one of those. You know what? We need to bring that back for this season because I'm sure he's got a lot more. But then
I don't think he cares. I think the thing was that the Jets had at least a spark of a chance to do something, and it was just nothing. I don't think he had any hope this time around. You're muted, Justin.
The fact that he's muted though is probably better for our demonetization.
No, I have no hope. I can't imagine ever having hope for this team ever again.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying it wouldn't be as impactful this year because I'm agreeing with you. Yeah. All right. So that being said, speaking of monetization, this, for all intents and purposes, in terms of consistent segments, if it's not the game segments, which will come back, ladies and gentlemen, don't worry, it would be this segment that would probably end up becoming the first ever sponsored segment in show history if we ever get that far. Who knows? Rant and Rick's Roast from Podium. Podfather, take us home.
Actually, we do have a sponsor this week, actually, believe it or not. Ooh. The Rant and Rick's Roast from Podium is sponsored by Bath & Body Works Warm Vanilla Sugar Hand Lotion. Because you need to have some vanilla smell when you're ranting about life.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's clarify one thing real quick. We are open to any sponsorships that happen. We do not care. I don't care how the Podfather can hate Duncan as much as they want. If Duncan paid us to sponsor the roast, the Red Podium, guess what? It's going to be sponsored by Duncan.
Oh, this is nice. Oh, this feels very, very nice.
And Duncan, just so you know, we can have Rick try a drink every show if you're willing to sponsor.
Yeah,
just have him just completely sell out. We'll get him some Duncan. I'll buy the Duncan merch myself. He wears it every show.
Yes, we are corporate shills for anyone that actually wants to pay us.
Listen, you guys have always talked. I like Duncan. One of my favorite donuts.
Hold on, don't lump me in with him. I've never taken as
That's fair. Shots. There's only one person here that's really taken a strong stance against our lovely corporate overlords that we would love to have sponsor. And again, we will pimp break out for a Dunkin' Donuts sponsorship. He has no say in the matter.
Tim Hortons is better. Just going to put it out there. Canada beats US in the donut category. Sorry for you, but I'm really sorry for you. Can I rant now? It's been a few weeks. I've got some things I got to talk about here. Okay. Thank you. All right. You're going to get a top 5 today, boys, because I'm feeling very generous. It's the holiday season, so I'm feeling generous for you. So we're going to start at number 5 with, speaking of the holiday season, I got to do a rant here on Andy Williams. He's dead, so I can't rant on the person who's living, but he's dead. But Andy Williams' quintessential song that you hear in every department store at this juncture is "It's the most wonderful time of the year." Is it, though? This month reminds you of how much crippling debt you have, the end of the year, things you didn't get to have done, presents that you know you're going to get that you really want, and you have to buy for people, the mall, Amazon deliveries that don't go to the right house, ice and snow, and Christmas bonuses that aren't what you want them to be. Is this really the most wonderful time of the year, Andy? I guarantee you, if he was still alive, which he's not, he's comfortably dead, by the way. If he was still alive and he saw how wonderful, quote unquote, this time of the year was, I think very much change the lyrics of that song, which he should. It's not wonderful. It's hectic. It's malignant. It's a malocchio time of the year. I like enough of this most wonderful time of the year nonsense. Number 4, I want to do a couple of things about the mall. Obviously, I just talked about that, but a couple of things about the mall here. My number 4 is the kiosks at the mall in the middle that are like the relaxation stations, where you have like your massages and your deep tissue kneading, all of that. They market it as relaxation stations. What is relaxing about going in the middle of a mall where it's packed and hectic and people are yelling and screaming to then get a deep tissue massage that has some stranger named Giovanni basically putting their elbow into your lower back for 45 minutes? How is that relaxing? I'm tense thinking about it. Don't you even get near me with that stuff. And that, by the way, is the kiosk right next to the faux soccer jersey kiosk. Like, what are we doing at the mall? Come on now. This is ridiculous. Number 3, speaking of the NBA, which I'm not a fan of, as you well know, because I can't stand pro basketball. College basketball, different story. Pro basketball, can't stand you. What the LA Clippers did to Chris Paul deserves to be on every America's Most Wanted list. Like, I understand Chris Paul's not really that great of a teammate or whatever, so be it. He wanted to end his career in a special place, and ironically, 2 dumbasses from New York and New Jersey, Lawrence Frank and Jeff Van Gundy, basically told him, nah, you're done. Like, where do you get the right to tell 20-year veteran Chris Paul to get off of a team that you're not even the head coaches of? I mean, Tyronn Lue has no backbone or spine anyways. We know this for a fact. But regardless, like, also was a terrible player in his own prime. But regardless, like, what? Honor the legacy of the man. I hope he goes to OKC and it's a reserve player and wins the title to walk off and just flips off the Clippers as he leaves. Please do that for me. Number 2, back to the mall. There's an apparel that I have a real problem with. No, it's not sleeveless tees because, again, they do show that you're paler than Casper at this time of the year. Fine. But shirt jackets, otherwise known as shackets. Who in their right mind invented this product? It is heavy. Have you ever tried to hold one of these in your hands? Shackets are a problem.
I like my shackets.
They're fine for you, Justin. But for the common man, a shacket is just it's a compromise of things that you never thought you wanted to compromise yourself on. The patterns are there, but the material is so heavy that it's like you might as well wear a sauna suit because you're going to lose 25 pounds wearing this thing and walking 10 feet to your mailbox and back. It gets ridiculous. And it's all about, saving the one, it's like, no. Like, keep my shirts and my jackets separate. That's what I want. That's just very simple for me. I prefer separate and equal shirts and jackets. That's all I have to say about that. And now my number 1. This goes to the legacy of Steve Jobs, who, like Andy Williams, is comfortably dead. Apple. How freaking dare you buy the rights to Charlie Brown Christmas? It's the one thing that I think many Americans desire to watch, and it's behind a paywall because you have to buy Apple TV. How freaking dare you? Where do you get the right to buy Peanuts and buy Charles Schultz's legacy?
On the 75th year anniversary, too.
Ridiculous. The fact that I had to go hunting for Charlie Brown Thanksgiving because my daughter hasn't seen it yet, it should be on primetime network television like it was back in the good old days. Although, I'll be honest with you, if it wasn't Apple, it would be that weird dope Jeff Bezos and Amazon who would have bought it regardless. Like, another idiot I can't stand. But Apple, no one watches your TV programs anyways. Where do you get the right to ruin Christmas? Like, it's ridiculous to me that I have to go hunt down here's your 1 week free trial. You can watch all this stuff now for 1 week free, and then we go back to, $19.99 a month for all this, and it's Apple TV Plus. Not just TV Plus. The plus means get the hell out of here, Apple. Stop ruining things. I still have your iPhone because I'm not going back to Android. But let me tell you something. If I wanted to, I went to a damn flip phone. I can't stand Apple products. I'm on a Microsoft laptop, thank you very much. That's how much I can't stand Apple. Yeah, and then you know who else can't stand Apple and who's locked up with me? Adam Rank, my new buddy. He hates Apple too. He's more of an Android guy anyways. I know this for a fact. Merry Christmas to all.
And on that note, Merry Christmas to all, and to all, another good weekend of football coming up. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this week's edition of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. Oh, it was a hot one, to say the least. Injuries bringing guys down, teams being affected by it, playoff implications, all the range over the next 12 days and more of this remainder of the NFL season. What will the playoff picture look like in the coming weeks? What will the Pick Challenge Championship look like within the next week or two? You'll find out those answers and much more as we continue our football analysis here on your favorite program for fun, football, and chaos. Thank you all so much for joining us on this week's edition of the show. And we'll see you guys next time with more picks and analysis to give all of you. Thank you so much for joining us during this most wonderful time of year. And on to another week for us all. Goodbye, everyone, and take care.